What a horrible makeup job they did on her. Gosh. Yeah, exactly. Terrible.
I was moved in the same way that you were. Just inspired by the music.
5, 4, 3. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Super Sports Collection Show. I am your host, Bruce Starr, and on this show, we dive deep into sports and business and personal growth. And there's no better way to do that than to have professional athletes who've been through it all on the show to talk about their history, their experience. And I'm thrilled today because I have the honor of hosting someone who's not only a former major league pitcher for many years, and he's going to tell us how many years he did that for, I'm sure, but he's also an author. He's an entrepreneur. He's an advocate for student athletes navigating. Here we go. If you haven't heard this before, this term, these letters, you're going to be hearing about it a lot more in the coming weeks, months, and days, and quite possibly because of my guest, the navigating the NIL, name, image, and likeness, and why that's going to be coming to the head of the forefront of newspapers and sports in the coming months and years. He founded Perfect Pitch Marketing Group, and he's the author of the highly anticipated book, Unlocking the Power of NIL, Name, Image, and Likeness. He also wrote his autobiography, Just My Game, and he's going to tell us more about Rock and Bowl Wines as a brand. So at this point, I want to welcome to the show my very special guest, Jason GRILLI. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Bruce, great to be on the show with you, man. It's nice to meet you in person again. LinkedIn brought us together, man. What a powerful website, right?
Unbelievable. It's, you're not going to find people like you. You might be on Facebook, but you're not going to connect with people like you on Facebook. You're not going to connect on any of the other apps. But LinkedIn, being a business-minded app, will connect business-minded people like you. You're not just an athlete. You're an entrepreneur. You're an author. So it really creates the opportunity for you to meet lots and lots of different people right from your own home and backyard. So I do appreciate LinkedIn for doing that for us. So I have, tell us about your career, because it's been a colorful, incredible career. You've played for some great teams. You've had some great experiences. Tell me some of the summary and the highlights for you.
Yeah, it's well, you can see behind me, there's my locker. I've been working on my office quite a bit, and as I designed this place, I turned a barn into my house. Life after baseball has been very interesting, and thank you for enticing your audience with just bringing some of my profile to life here. I kind of want to live that Forrest Gump life. I wanted to be a baseball player first, and I did that for quite some time. Wanted to be like my dad, and my dad just happened to be a professional athlete as well. He pitched for the Tigers and Blue Jays organization back in the 70s and early 80s, and too young to really remember his career much on the field, but I do remember going into clubhouses and I guess through osmosis or being an outlier, as Malcolm Gladwell's book Outliers there, I got to get into the mainframe and be around these guys, and I just saw what I wanted to be. And having to work at his restaurant and bar right up the road from MacArthur Stadium, the AAA ballpark for the Blue Jays at the time. It's now the Mets affiliate. I had to earn and learned the value of a dollar by slinging pizzas and doing some chicken wings, busting some tables to pay for my baseball cards and buy my first pair of Air Jordans and all that. My dad taught me the value of a dollar. And from a guy who's made $27,000 in his top of his career, that was the biggest contract he ever had. $27,000 back in his day in the late 70s. Those guys had to work in the off season, and so I think his drive and just that tenacity that my dad had to have to give us a good life and make a living, like many people do, blue collar. It taught me the value of a dollar and working hard. But I said, when I had enough of it, I finally pulled him aside. I said, "Hey, Dad, I think it's time for me to learn the curveball because I don't want to do this for the rest of my life." And so that's how that story went and motivated me, even to this day. So I'm trying to instill that in my kids who are now very entrepreneurial. They're doing some things online and selling this and selling that, figuring out how to sell online and take advantage of that. But yeah, my career was crazy. I just found a telegram from the New York Yankees back in '94 when I was drafted by them out of high school, which is nice to see the Yankee Stadium behind you there. Bruce, it brings us some good memories, but that's who started. I got drafted out of high school by them. Didn't have Seton Hall on the map for me to go to college, but I was too young. I didn't feel I was ready for bus rides and just having a couple beers in the back of the bus. I didn't feel like I was quite ready at 17. I wanted to go to college, fill out a little bit more because I was, I don't know, 160 pounds soaking wet. My senior year of high school, I was skinny, and play against guys that are professional athletes every day, you got to be big and strong to endure that. And so just didn't know. My hard work and all that led me to be a high pick with the San Francisco Giants. And as you can see, I never pitched for them, but I pitched for almost every other team in the league, a third of it anyways. And it was a good journey. I've enjoyed it. 20-year span with some injuries and some bumps and bruises. They put Humpty Dumpty back together time and time again. And I just never quit. I just rode the horse as long as it allowed me to until I couldn't stand being away from my kids and it was time to pass that baton because it's something that you never really own. It's something that you get to borrow. And now I'm just trying to, leave something a little bit better than one that was made right and borrowed um, for them.
So before we go into the book, because this book is groundbreaking, I mean, when people learn about NIL, they're going to be they're going to be shocked, and it's going to create a lot of different thoughts in people's minds. But before we go into that, I do want to learn more about some of the teams that you played for, some of the managers you played for, and just a minute or two of maybe some of the highlights over the years that just pop up for you from time to time.
Yeah, well, I got obviously you never forget your first game. Mine was against the Atlanta Braves during the time when they were the badass team of the NL, right? And National League, winning pennants, and you got Greg Maddux, John Smoltz, Tom Glavine, the Chipper Joneses of the world on there, Andrew Jones, all these Hall of Famers. And I got to pitch my big league debut against them, and so that's hanging on my wall. I got the winning hit and RBI too. I think when pitchers actually got to hit. So I had all my family there. You never forget your first game, and luckily, I pulled the first win at my debut. Playing for Team Italia when the World Baseball Classic came into play, I got to do that 3 times. Shared my Italian heritage. It allowed me to play for Team Italy, unbeknownst to me that would even matter. The name on the back of the jersey for sure allowed you to play for the one on the front, even if your name was Olenberger. We had an Olenberger who was Italian. Obviously, the mothers were Italian. Yeah, some other moments. Just postseason here in Pittsburgh, the famous Cueto game, as everybody calls it around here. The wild card game, bringing playoff baseball back to Pittsburgh in 2013. Big highlight. Love still talking to the fans about that. Having a catch with my dad was my big field dreams moment with him when I was named to the All-Star team in Chicago. We had the announcement team meeting and I ran out on the field after myself and four other teammates. We had five guys that year. It was a good year, 2013, and represented us in the All-Star game. And as I ran out to the field, my dad, Clint Hurdle, who was a big proponent of giving me great opportunity um, in my career to be a setup man and a closer here in Pittsburgh. But that particular weekend was a special one because he allowed the fathers to come on a weekend trip with us, and they were on the field shagging with us. Just could be in the dugout, clubhouse up until game time, of course. And so that moment was monumental. I think I got the picture actually right here. I love sharing that. Yes, I do. Because a fan actually took this picture and put it on Twitter. So here's the moment I was just telling you about. It was a
Wow.
fun moment. We were playing catch by the Ivory, and we were crying. And this fan just happened to snap a picture of us. And so it's one of my favorite pictures that I have.
What a beautiful picture. Wow.
Yeah, so that's at Wrigley. But yeah, there's World Series, of course. I got to play in a World Series. I just watched the documentary on the 2004 Boston Red Sox. It's on Netflix, and I was even crying because what you miss the most out of everything is really just the guys that you are family with, the guys that you get to knock on their hotel door and go say, let's go have a beer, let's go grab breakfast, just shoot the shit with, because they are your family at the time. And I miss all the guys. You disperse long after the game stops, the lights go out, and you put your cleats up, you know. So I cried a little bit this morning because I miss baseball that way. And my body's saying you can't do that anymore. But in my mind, all those great memories, um, you just that love and respect never goes away. It was a part of what I did. It was an identifier, part of my identity. Then I don't say it is now because, like I said, it's something that I borrowed, and I got a different ball cap on now. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. That's why I say I love Forrest Gump. It's a great movie for everybody to really see. Like, be good at everything you can. Try everything.
Are you still friends with some of the guys? Did you connect with some on a deeper level, or was it? I know.
Yeah,
Listen, I know it's all deep. I know because the stories I hear about the teammates is incredible.
yeah. It is, and it's very rare when it really, really, cuts deep, and that doesn't always happen. You know, especially on losing teams, it seems like it's the opposite sometimes because everybody can't figure out how to gel and become a team. And I guess that's exemplary if you watch that Netflix docu-series without the Red Sox. It really shares that, and it made me feel envious to the degree that I go, I wish I was on that team. I wish I could have played at that time with those guys, be a part of something like that. But that wasn't my path. We all have our path, and God puts us in places we're supposed to be. So, yeah, the time that those particular things happen and teams gel and teams hang out and teams that eat together, drink together, generally want to hang out together. I think the phones really, as I progressed through, changed things a little bit because everybody was sitting on their phones and doing that type of thing, distancing a little bit. But you had to find time to just hang out and have a drink together. And sometimes I told the guys that didn't want to drink, particularly, I said, "Well, come out for a Coke, put a lime or a lemon in it, and put a water and just come out." It was about hanging out. It wasn't about the drink so much as it was just to be together and be people. Besides just a teammate, we wanted to be people with one another.
That's incredible. So you did have a remarkable career in baseball, and now you're kind of, making waves, I think, in a good way in the world of NIL. So I would like you to tell us about NIL. Again, it's three letters that people are going to hear a lot more about, and I have a feeling it's going to be a lot because of the book you've written. Tell us what inspired you to write Unlocking the Power of NIL.
Well, again, going through it, being a advocate and just the beneficiary, I should say. first of what was laid before me. I mean, from baseball cards to things, I'd throw in things like this, right? Magnets, uh, whether you're political or not, people are seeing this type of stuff. Even Donald Trump. I mean, anybody, guys that are Joe Smith's landscaping company. We are taught that our name, at the end of the day, money, no money, that's all you have, right? What's in a name? And from that name, your image, do the people see you as a good person, as a successful person, as someone who's giving, who contributes and cares about your community? Is it somebody, that's why they give out the Roberto Clemente Award, right? In baseball, people who are not just looking about themselves and trying to get an MVP or a Cy Young, people who are out in their community trying to make it better. Um, so, your likeness, imageries of bobbleheads and all the things that people will sell, just as from an athlete standpoint. I want to go and tone it down. Like, people think that it's just for student athletes. Yeah, that's the focus. There's a big industry in the sports industry, right? I mean, it's $1 billion industry where these kids were not able to get monies to be have sponsorships, and it was always like paying under the table. So, I mean, we could go a slew of places and with this topic. But I think the biggest thing of it, why I did this, and that's what everybody should be asking, is like, what's your why? What's your motivation? What do you want to get out of this? What do you want to do out of life? People don't want to necessarily go work in a skyscraper tower and sitting on a computer all day, punch in, punch out. There's more value to everybody that they have a bigger dream than that. Um, Truthfully, whether they're an artist or a musician or whatever it may be, right? Their skill set. It's really, today's day and age, the excuse is, are you willing to lose more than you're able to win? Because that's where you get the value and get comfortable being uncomfortable. I think that's what people don't realize about athletics is, I got a friend, he was the chef, my buddy who was the chef of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was out on the field with me one day on the mound, and we were sitting there talking. He goes, dude, I'm nervous right now. He goes, I don't know how you do this. So you have to have a stomach and for that. And I just thrived. I felt like that was my easy chair. I loved performing in big situations and moments. And even when you stunk up the place, the crowd's booing you or cheering you or guys are jeering you. It's something that you go, I missed that rumble. I missed that chance to take a risk and succeed. And I think in life, I want my kids, things that my first book, I just wrote a love story. It's all it is a love story to my kids and anybody that reads it. It's just my way of wrapping it around. Don't quit, and this book, NIL, is nothing different than what my parents said. Make them feel proud. The name on the back of the jersey carries my family heritage. Your business card, your driver's license. If you get a DUI or you do something stupid where you see, these guys that have been charged with domestic, abuse and things like that, you can defame yourself quicker than you can climb that ladder of, pivotal success. I think when it's sad in our society that we don't want people to have too much success because there's that envy, like, well, there's room for you. There's abundance. So how are you going to take that name, image, and likeness and take it to the degree do you want to? Do you want to work at that, or do you want to go sit at the bar with your head down for 5 years and then look up and go, oh, I missed out on this opportunity, or I didn't take that time? Because people's biggest regret, so you hear, we're all going to get there. Did I do enough with my life? And when you're on the hospital bed, surrounded by your loved ones and people you want, did you do what you wanted to do? And through that journey, my why of doing this was just to help out. I've been taken advantage of a multitude of ways. There's things in life where you have financial advisors. They're not all good. You have accountants who mess up on your taxes. You have things like divorce, or someone wants to sue you. Things that you don't expect or think that that's not going to happen to me, right? I just want people to be prepared, and you can't put a shield on your kids and when you release them out to the world, but you want to arm them with the right attitudes, materials, and protection, right? So I don't know, Bruce, for these student athletes, now the kids can there's some guys getting upwards of a couple $1 million to go be a quarterback or a point guard or whatever at school. And even if they're on Sports Illustrated swimsuit issues, there's females that are making it, that are gymnasts and good looking girls that are modeling as well as being an athlete. So there's all these opportunities, whether they're just doing a local shot for a spot for a car wash or a restaurant. Um, they now have a third hat that they can wear, but they have to be the student first. Then they can be the athlete next, and then the entrepreneurial and the branding comes next. So there's a pathway to do it. And I've trying to find it after, long after, because your legacy after has to be just as good throughout, because it's actually going to set you up after if you want to still be relevant, because it's about the players today. Nobody cares about Jason Grilli's career or Barry Bonds' career. That all happened. It's gone, right? We're talking Paul Skeens now. We're talking about the Dodgers now. We're talking about, the players of now are who we're talking about. Their name, image, and likeness matters more than mine or somebody else in the past. But it doesn't mean that you can't still carry a little bit of that flame, a little bit of that torch. And what are you doing? What are you contributing to? What are you adding to instead of taking from? That's kind of essentially what angle of why I'm doing this. So I can help that way.
So when I was younger, some of the generation a little older than me would say, "Oh, those college kids, they shouldn't be taking money, and college kids, let them be in college and forget about their careers." So it was very controversial when there was talk about kids uh, earning money while they were in college. What are some of the misconceptions about NIL that maybe you can help straighten out for us?
Yeah, I mean, everybody says colleges pay through their scholarships. Do scholarships really cover what's basically covers their tuition, their room and board, really compensate athletes for contributing to a $1 billion industry and sports program? I mean, heck, the college coaches, there's buyouts and stuff. If they fire and they didn't win, they're still getting paid that money. So why are the kids that are getting concussions or tear their ligaments and their meniscuses and ACLs and all this that are the product? There's so much money, and where's that money going? I think that's where athletes, no different than union people or teachers that say, hey, there's enough money to bump us up a little bit. We're the ones doing the work, and we feel like, I believe if it's there and you can treat people the way they want to be treated, we all value ourselves and think we're more valuable than we really are, right? But if the money's there, which again in this case it's $1 billion industry, and scholarships don't really cover that. If anything, it's almost like it was almost like the NCAA sliding that in there, that little loophole. Like, we can give them a scholarship and we don't have to pay them, and they're happy because they don't have a college bill at the end of this, and we get all this money over here. Finally, then when things started evolving and some of these athletes stood up, just like Kurt Flood did, and said, "No, you don't own me. I'm going to be a free agent." This is kind of the same thing that's happening. Is that you got to have some people that are bold enough and willing to stick their neck out, whether it could cost them their scholarship, it could cost them their college degree, or even being able to say, I played in college. This cost me my career, but I'm sticking my neck out so that someone else doesn't have to do this. That's a pretty bold thing to do, to be a martyr that way, to stand up for people. So kudos to those people, because I don't know. I've never had to come to a decision to strike or we're locked out in that situation. People before me, my father was in part of that, and some players in '94. Things like that upset fans. But I think everybody is just trying to figure out how we're going to bridge this gap, right? Of discussing how NIL opportunities can supplement these scholarships and giving these athletes a chance to earn their money. Because let's face it, some of the colleges really the ceiling for athletes, especially women's softball, right? They get to play in the Olympics, maybe. There's no pro softball after college, right? So if you've dedicated your whole life, and it's a job. When you go as a student athlete, you have a job. You don't have time to really go even on a spring break. Our spring break was we're playing in Florida, we're playing 6, 7 games and trying to study it in between that or go back to the hotel while you're traveling and take classes. And we didn't have remote we didn't have remote learning where we could jump on and talk to our teacher or there was a video for us to watch. We had tutors and stuff, but it's different. It's made easier now. So again, I don't like when people say, I don't think they should be compensated. It's taking out the amateurism in it. Yeah, there's going to be some sticking points, right? There's going to be some situations where someone gets a lot of money, they're going to get into trouble. But if you give a good person, good money, they're going to do maybe good things with it. You give a bad person money, they might do bad things with it. But that's not the fault of the player for being the potential to earn. You can't tell anybody, I can't tell you how to spend your money. You can't tell me how to spend my money, right? It's just a resource. And I don't think we should be so jealous because if we're betting on a game, if we're going to a game to go watch it and buy hot dogs and make a memory with our family members, sons, daughters, what have you, and we're paying into that, then we're supporting, like we want to be a part of that. And how those players that are out there grinding and giving up their bodies should be compensated. I think that's something that was long overdue. And you know, I think the benefits outweigh the negatives at this point for me. I guess I'm maybe biased just because I am a former athlete. I didn't get the opportunity to make that kind of money. But I think we have to talk about how these kids will come back to whether they make it, they blow it. I don't know if I gave you $50,000 cash, would you have had anything left after college? I don't know. I don't know that I would either. Because I was near New York City. I think I would have been like, come on, let's go, everybody. Let's go get a nice steak dinner in the city. And you're treating everybody. So it's kind of like, why did guys like Mike Tyson go broke? He had a whole entourage of people that were supportive, but they were there for the take too. And so my warning is that yes, you can live high off the hat while you're making it, but make sure there's enough at the end. And I'm not a financial person. I'm not an accountant. I don't have that skill set or those credentials behind me, but I have people that have helped contribute to that book and people in a directory that I can guide people to make sure that they're, going to be in the right frame of mind and the right place at long after.
So let's go to the next step. You've really described it beautifully, especially from your point of view, a former athlete, 20 years as a professional athlete. So let's go to the next step. You've worked with a lot of student athletes. What are some key strategies for branding and building a personal identity off the field? Because I'm right there with you. My company that I started, it's about helping athletes after they've retired. Some of them, like you said, do well and hold on to their money. Many do not. So, talk about some key strategies for branding and building a personal identity once they've retired.
Yeah, I think it's just like I said. I hope that these kids really understand that any opportunity. I just posted something I found just digging through a lot of my artifacts. I did a Ernest and Young appearance at a museum in Detroit when I was a Detroit Tiger. You just don't know who you're going to meet. A pen and a business card, really, when you're networking, it's not just all about meeting people online. I think you got to go out there and create a business card for yourself. What's your identifier? What sets you apart from everybody else? What makes you different and unique? And then embrace that. I think a lot of people find that hard to figure out who they are. I mean, heck, a lot of people go to 23andMe or what's the other one? Ancestry.com, and you want to figure out how Italian are you or how Irish are you and what have you, what's your ethnicity. So we all have this place where we're branding ourselves to figure out really who we are, what we are, why we are, and embrace that. I think the vulnerability of putting yourself out there is really what even people who seem confident, right, can internalize. I think I've gone through that a million times. Mental health is a huge topic about NIL that I don't think anybody really spends enough time on, or just we don't as a society. I think it's coming about more often. But I think just when you talk about branding and branding yourself, what are you willing to do? Are you willing to put yourself out there? I can tell you a story just of writing that first book. While I was playing, I was very apprehensive about doing that, very reluctant about doing that, and I was encouraged to do it. And I turned over a personal journal where I just had stuff scratched down, stuff on my phone that I notes of things I went through, and I printed it out and I handed it over. And the first article that was written about that book was not a negative one. So when I talk about vulnerability, I come from a place where you have to really be willing to put yourself out there. I mean, people are, I think, but people of our time, we're not used to that. I'm still getting accustomed to getting on here, jumping on podcasts, putting videos of myself. I'm not perfect at it, but you have to just do it. That's why I talk about loss, right? When you identify strategies, learn. There's so many courses, there's so many YouTube videos, there's so many free, paid conferences. Go try it. You're not going to know until you try. That's why I go back to just go watch Forrest Gump, right? There's a simple man, a very simple man, learning how to do simple things, and that's overcomplicated because he just treated it from a standpoint of being a simple-minded man, but very smart in the same regard, right? So what's the strategy? I think it's learn as much as you can, but don't be so afraid that you don't already know who you are and what you are and where you want to go. I think that's really my message to everybody is that, what's the marketing strategy? Like there's no roadmap for every single person to follow, go, that's the way you do it. There's so many different ways to do it. And I think the people that stand out are the ones that just are authentic and genuine. And that's what people like. We want that culture. We want the truth. We want to feel like, man, that guy, I could have a beer with that guy or that girl, or we can go hang out. We'd be friends despite, meeting on LinkedIn or on Instagram. We would just we live so far apart, but the world's gotten smaller. We can identify with these people and we find our rhythm and what do I want to say, a routine that works for us. And I think that's really the marketing strategy that everybody has to figure out for themselves and to take, because I can be overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed every day because I'm like, there's not enough time in a day. So my marketing strategy when I wake up is that, hey, I got my list and I got to follow at least those things. And then I start deviating from there. All right, good. It might bring me in. That's how I met you, right? It just got pulled into this. And I didn't know, you have a lot going on in communications and your network. And we don't know where this could lead, right? But there's one person that you and I might be speaking to right now in the audience that finds this and listens and something of value that wants to dive in and say, you know what, he's right. Or that was something that I didn't know. If you're thinking it's somebody else has thought that too. It's just that vulnerability that we got to come back to say, hey, I'm willing to learn. We don't know everything. I don't know everything. I'm just trying to put stuff together. I'm not the biggest NIL attorney and all that. That's why I have people that I said, hey, I need your help. Could you help me with this topic? Could you put this in the book? I need the compliance of what you know so that these people can know better about what this is. And maybe they trust. There's a trust, right? Develop a trust. So
What I loved about you is that you were open to communicate with me and touch base with me, because a lot of athletes, for whatever reason, which I'm still trying to figure out, are closed off. They're making judgments. That they're thinking, oh, they're an athlete. Listen, I spent many years in the entertainment industry out in LA. I know what that's about when someone thinks they're better than someone else because they're in show business and everybody else is pedestrian. I know what they're thinking. So
right?
I don't fault
Well,
anybody for that, but
I'm laughing as I say this, and I'm looking over here to this side. Look, I thought I had a mess hidden so that nobody could see me. Does that make me real? My office is a mess, right? It's real. You can stage whatever you want. You can cover it up with Yankee Stadium behind you, but the reality is that we're real people, and I think we got to stop pretending to be this like it's got to be perfect. It's got to be presented a certain way. Listen, we are all busy. I got dishes in the sink. I got laundry upstairs not done. Life is so busy, and it's like go get what you want to get out of it because the stuff that really doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. What matters is making the memories, is making that mark, is having that award or having that accolade or accomplishing that thing that you want. And name, image, and likeness isn't this like set thing that you're going to go, oh, it's right in the palm of my hands. No, it's massive. It's limitless. It's the limit that you it's what you allow yourself to break out of, to allow yourself to do, to be vulnerable to, hey, I want to go do this. Go put yourself in that situation. You're doing it on the field. That's why I said we look at athletes like who's the most vulnerable? The number one thing I think the most vulnerable that you do as an athlete, at least in baseball, clubhouses, sure in football, basketball, there's reporters in there. You take your clothes off and change, and there's all these people you don't know, and you're changing in front of people, strangers, full of people. So and then you go outside, compete at a game, at Yankee Stadium in Chicago, wherever it may be, with tens of thousands of people, and you might have an off night feeling like I prepared, ready for the game, and you get embarrassed, and then your lowlights are on ESPN. You try to go out to the bar, get have a bite to eat, and it's on every television. You're like, man, I should have never left my hotel room.
uh,
So imperfection, brother, is everywhere. It's behind me. Look, there it is. It's all my stuff that I thought was in before coming on the show. And that's it. So name, image, and likeness. Am I perfect? No. I'm trying to be. I'm trying to get things organized. That's always constant, man.
well, what people are going to love about you is how real you are, and that's what I'm really liking about you. And I think you know what he is real, and he's doing this for real reasons. So NIL, it's exploding, from all the things that we've talked about. So it is shaping the future of collegiate athletes. What do you see happening in the next 5 years? I mean, it's almost impossible to try to figure out, but what do you see?
Well, I'm hoping the big news recently here was just that Georgia and Ohio, um, the governor just said, it's like breaking up a monopoly, basically, is that there now state law is these colleges and universities cannot restrict these student athletes from getting endorsements and sponsorship deals. That's a big deal. That it's now law. So I don't know what a governing body of the NCAA. It's almost like we're disintegrating these things that are, these bodies that were collecting all this money. Where does it go? What do you do with all these billions of dollars, right? It's happening in our everyday life too. We're questioning like, why? What does the IRS do? How come these people make all this money and we're supportive of that? That's what we have the right to question. We have the right to fight for what is fair and what is just. And I believe that what we're going to see is more of the same. I hope that they do get some uh, semblance of collective bargaining along the way. Jim Cavalli, who's on the back of my book there, and endorsees.athletes.org. And I hope that, people that are in this for the right reasons are also helping for the right reasons, right? Because there are people who are going to sit there and go, I'm taking, I'm taking, I'm taking. Scott Boras, one of the top sports agents in the industry, he gets guys played. He's maybe not well liked, but he does what he says he's going to do. He's going to get people paid for what their value is. So I don't know what's going to necessarily happen if it's going to get to that level of it. I don't think so, but I do believe, hey, if a college coach is going to do that, and there's a quarterback that's going to take you to the to the championship bowl game every year that he's there, I think he's deserving of some good payday. Now, what about the guy that's third string or whatever? it's no different than scholarships. I'm going to bring it back to that. I got a full ride scholarship. I pitched. I was out there all the time. I had maybe more scholarship money. I was paid more. I was paid. I was paid to go there. I look at like, was I professional at the time? Yeah, I was paid to go there. I always looked at it like that, and I respected that. That I had an obligation to the university to perform, to work hard, to be accountable. Because when fast forward, I went to the tri-state area when I pitched in New York, whether it be the Yankees or the Mets. Um, they brought up Seton Hall University. That was a free advertisement for Seton Hall University. GRILLI came out of there with Mo Vaughn and Craig Biggio and Matt Morris. Like they
Wow.
went go through the names of players that played there. So I felt good about giving back because I was a representative. So name, image, and likeness. My name was associated with those guys and the teams that they played for and the careers that they had, and the announcers would always bring that up. So I found that to be very telling about what this could mean and what it does mean for student athletes to say, hey, you're not only just playing for yourself, but you're representing a lot of other people that have given you this money. And now that you're going to get actually cash and cars and what other benefits, surrounding this, it's now legal. And the responsibility, I think they have to understand that. And it's hard. These kids are young. And I think even not just to take the pressure and put the pressure on and the onus on the athlete, their families. There's families that don't have any financial knowledge and education that, hey, guess what? You're going to go play in New York. Guess what? They're going to tax you too. Uncle Sam's going to take some, and New York State's going to take some because you're earning money in New York State. I try to tell people $1 million in the big leagues, right? That's a lot of money. Oh, wow, you get to make $1 million. Well, again, Uncle Sam gets a cut. Every state you play in gets a cut. Got your union dues, your clubhouse dues. Let me think of some other fees you got to pay for. You got to rent a house or apartment in the city you play for. You might already have one in Florida. All this money's going. You got to pay for your diaper money for your kids and your food and your wife's hair and nails and whatever else you got going on. Normal. So you're lucky to take a third of that home with you. Now, let's just say you play professionally. You're lucky to pay that $1 million and that third that you take away. Maybe it took you 5 years, 5 years in the minor leagues. Well, now you cost average that out. That's 60 grand a year. How rich are you? Right? So the financial nuggets that you sit there and you say, hey, man, I better take care of myself. And it's not about making the money. I think that's the problem. It's about teaching kids how to hang on to it and people how to hang on to it because uh, I don't know, God bless the Mike Tyson fight. He wound up doing something that everybody I think knows now that we all helped Mike Tyson get back some money that he wished he hadn't given away. And, God bless for them, structuring that and bamboozling us a little bit with that. But it's great marketing, right? Great marketing strategy.
Absolutely.
We all bought into that. And you look at like what can you do? Limitless possibilities. How does a YouTuber make a name, image, and likeness and to be considered a premier boxer? Right? That was a dream of his. That's a lot of work and dedication, some mindset and marketing. And they wrapped it all around and look where he's at, making millions of dollars. So again, I don't always focus on the money, but the money is always the topic. We equate money with success. And I don't think you have to have a lot of money to be considered successful. It's what you do. Like I said, I chased this dream behind me for those jerseys. I didn't want somebody to rip it off of me. The money just was the reward for working hard. The scholarship was the money for working hard. The good things and the good things, the taste, the high things in life that you get to embrace and experience is a product of hard work. And I think just we as a society we need to teach that and pass that baton that hard work is really what your name, image, and likeness should be about. I think that's the message, Bruce.
Jason, it's a great message. Gosh, I can go on and ask all these questions, but you did you worked with athletes, you've worked with the University of Pittsburgh, and the institutions do play a role in helping students succeed in the NIL era. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of collectives, but again, I think a lot of these colleges and universities, they still don't have an understanding. I'm thankful that a friend of mine, I shared this book before it was even bound and printed by a publishing company to make it look pretty and sexy as it does now. Um, the university and recognized that this was a necessary thing. Thankfully, University of Pittsburgh is making an accredited class. It's going to be the first of its kind. So,
Wow.
my buddy took the book. He's making it the required textbook for student athletes. They have a workshop they're building for the university and the kids with podcast stations and directors and assistants to help with the fulfillment. Because again, I think what now, whether they're going to be considered employees or entrepreneurs or this other third hat that these student athletes get to wear, the fulfillment and the attention of takeaway, I can't imagine knowing what I did at Seton Hall University. I was a dean's list student. I was also a pretty good athlete. And then if I had to go to a car dealership for 2 hours or whatever to sign autographs, take pictures, and exude more energy, people think that that's easy. When you need to rest and just, require exuding that energy, just like, you go into a party or you go into a wedding or you're going to see somebody, a business meeting, that takes mental energy. You know what I'm saying? Like extroverting that attention and that enthusiasm. Well, when you do that, again, is that going to add or take away from what you have to do in your other two hats of responsibilities that you have to do? So I think that as the education part goes on, I think that these universities are going to have to really focus on some of these other things, these intangibles. And I think that's why I also devised this workbook and my buddy devised this syllabus so that they can talk about these things. And it's not just going to be in a classroom setting. It's going to be, like I said, in these tutoring uh, halls and whatnot that they have for these athletes. It's way better than when I was there. God bless. I wish I could go now. I wish I could go back because just even what they do from a nutrition standpoint and what they have access to, it's left better. But it's because the money's there. It's because the attention of how we, as a society here in America, we post entertainment value on sports, on movies, on going to Vegas shows and going out to a good dinner, that we all want that. We all want to live that life. That's why our ancestors moved over here, right? To give ourselves a better life. And why not? If you can do it as an athlete, God bless you, because there's a lot of work in that. I think about back to looking over my shoulder and I go, that makes me tired. You know what excites me? Just getting a cup of coffee in the morning. That's the most intense thing I want to do now is just enjoy my coffee.
So, I went to Northeastern University in Boston, and I majored in accounting and also some marketing. And I bring that up because people say to me, "Well, you're not an accountant." I said, "Yeah, but I learned that money doesn't grow on trees by being an accountant." And so I think in your book, you said it's crucial for uh, athletes to learn more about money and money management as early in their career as possible.
Yeah. I think, like I said, these universities, you don't want to learn. It's almost backwards. It's almost like as a young person, I feel going through it now. I feel like you should be able to go have a little bit of fun for 3 or 4 years and not so much pressure. There's a lot of pressure, but it's flip flopping and being controversial and contradictory to my own statement there. You have to learn some things because, like I said, you give this kid $500,000 and say, "Go ahead, it's going to be gone," right? But if you have some education where they have some classes that are structured and geared towards maybe finding out why. But you know, I feel like there's a good head on everybody's shoulders here because they don't want to screw it up. I think that they want to learn, just even nutrition wise. My mom and I were talking about it, how back in the day, she's like, we never drank as much water. We weren't told to drink water like they tell you to drink water today. Um, or even just like people that are obsessed with whole foods or eating organic and not eating this particular cereal or whatever it is. Knowledge is power, and finding out more is at our fingertips. I tell my son, I go, you got the power of everything right here. We carry computers in our pockets. So there's no excuse to not learn. And you talk about NIL, those three letters, AI is the other one. That's the big hot topic. So you merge those two together for branding. I don't know what athlete can't make something of themselves, because if they're not a big deal as a professional athlete, or they're not even a big deal as a collegiate athlete, they might be a big deal in their hometown. And in their hometown, if that's where you wind up full circle, that's what's going to matter. And whether it's your LinkedIn profile, a commercial that you shoot, something that you do, and you have that why. I mean, they made a movie out of Rudy, right? The whole thing about Rudy, the movie, is centered on the why. We bought into the why. We watched that movie and why we would go pay for that on the silver screen to watch that. Um, but again, the order has to be students, because you never stop learning. You can be that athlete, take that hat off for a second, and forget about life's problems. I didn't think about my papers that I had to write when I was on the field. I wanted to go destroy somebody. I wanted to go compete. I wanted to go show off and say, you know what, you came to see me play. They're holding all the radar guns. I want to go show these scouts that you should consider me. You know what? If you're here, it's no different than I'm sitting in the front of the classroom. I want that teacher to know I'm here to learn. I want to get an A in this class. I'm going to sit in the front. I'm not going to sleep in the back. Right. So it's just the approach of, what hat are you wearing? What kind of athlete, or what kind of person, or what kind of business person do you want to be? And you have that choice. You have that obligation to yourself. And you can't blame anybody but yourself if you don't do it, because, and let's face it, if you've made a name for yourself and you are that good, well, they say Lou Gehrig, Wally Pipp, they say Wally pipped him. Well, Wally Pipp was the guy that got hurt, and Lou Gehrig got the starting position at first base for the Yankees, right? So you don't necessarily root against your teammates even, but I know in the minor leagues in AAA for baseball, sometimes there's 6 outfielders. There's a roster full of 12 to 13, 15 pitchers. Well, you want to be the best one, because if you're in AAA, you want to be that first one call up. You're not like, yeah, I want you to do well because I want to win in AAA too, but I want to win, but also do a little bit better than my teammate, so that I'm the first one that they call. It's a competitive world out there in everything, So I don't know. There's a lot of directions we could go with that, Bruce.
And you know what? I have a feeling that we can do many more shows and get in deeper to your book and how this can help people. But this has been a very enlightening uh, interview, a very stimulating. I'm stimulating the minds of people that never thought of this before. I really appreciate, Jason, you spending this time with me and with people from around the country and even around the world. I mean, this show can really become something that any young athlete will want to watch, learn, and listen to if they want to get into professional sports.
Well, hey, like I said, I know you got your copy there. Thank you for sharing that with us here. If people want to get a copy, they can go on Amazon. That's where everybody gets their books, right? NIL Playbook's our website. And yes, I'd love to share it. Hopefully, I'll be able to speak. I just spoke to a few guys today that live throughout the country. If it's not going to be me, I have a lot of fraternity brothers and sisters that are going to be sharing their experiences as well, just from different stories. And everybody's got a story to share. It's not just mine. So get the copy of the Unlocking the Power of NIL. I hope it helps you. I've enjoyed being on the show, Bruce. We've had many conversations now, and we're friends now. So appreciate your time and energy to this, and drawing some attention to your audience and your network, man.
Well, Jason, much appreciation. I look forward to what might happen in the future because, again, with my business and what you're doing, we're going in the same direction. We're trying to help professional athletes. You a little bit more focused on the younger athletes, but me trying to help professional athletes that have kind of possibly lost their way, and they deserve a helping hand. If someone did them wrong, their money's gone, they weren't smart about it. So again, Jason, God bless. Thank you for being on the show. And thank you, everybody, for watching this show, the Super Sports Collection Show, with my very special guest, Jason Grilli. 20 years in Major League Baseball. Goodness gracious, Jason, great job.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Bye bye, everybody.